And Fairway Fred, you don't eat with percentages, you eat with cash. The reason Survivor prices have come down. There you go.
Love it.
Well, why don't we talk about that with this gentleman who was kind enough to join us on the spur of the moment. Thank you again to Crack.
Thanks,
for
Russ.
making it happen. Russell Rosenblum is still alive. He's one of the remaining, or he's responsible for one of the remaining 45 entries in this year's Circa Survivor. He's also one of the hosts of the Survivor Sweat podcast, which he does with Mike Buchmiller, and part of the Saturday Night Sweat podcast, which our friend Tony Farmer moderates as well. Russell joins us now courtesy of the Progressive guest line. How you doing, man? Nice to meet you, sir.
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing
But
today?
you actually did meet Gill before at when Joe Montana that night. Gill was there.
Yes.
Gill was
That's
there.
right.
He just forgets.
Joe Montana. No, I was too busy arguing with Crack whether I should catch a pass from Joe or not.
Oh yeah, I made him take a photo at the end. I threatened Gill's life. Get in there and take a photo with Joe, and Joe was nice enough to do that. And Russ and I were both hanging out with Joe. They were very nice to us. But go ahead,
I was
Gill.
petrified I was going to drop the ball.
Oh God, yeah.
Russell, let me ask you this: you have been part of a split at the end of Survivor already in a previous year. Is that true?
You want to tell us how much?
2022. 2022. I think each of us, the prize was $6 million at the time.
All right.
So by today's standards, a small field.
Yeah.
631, something like that. So we 6,031. We technically there were two of us that reached the finish line, and it's actually indirectly helped lead to Survivor Sweat, because when we were getting close, we were all trying to figure out, is there a way to make a deal? Is there a way to make a save, to sell a piece? And there really wasn't. So we went out there with our group, and as Mike likes to tell the story, I was literally in Antarctica for the last week on a family vacation that was planned like 2 years prior. And we're sitting there on the phone with lawyers back in Vegas trying to figure out how to draft documents and get everything done so we could make a swap with somebody who we eventually chopped with anyway. But we realized, you can do that when you're at the end and you're each in it for, a few $1 million. It's almost impossible to do that earlier on, to spend 20 or 25,000 on lawyers. So we ended up, and the guys that actually helped found Survivor Sweat helped me find the other people that were involved to try to make a deal with. So they realized it was probably a good time to put together a platform.
Wow. So you were literally, you used the word literally, you were in Antarctica that week?
I was on a ship in Antarctica, on a National Geographic ship in Antarctica for the last 10 days of the NFL season.
And and cell phone service apparently was okay then, is what you're saying?
It's kind of like you're using the mediocre Wi-Fi on the ship.
I was going to say.
There was no real cell phone service to try to, it was funny. I mean, in hindsight, we're laughing because we had 4 or 5 partners in this thing, and each of us were able to contribute in a different way in terms of getting the deal done. One of them happened to be an attorney that knew another attorney, and someone else was had a lot of cash handy. So when we were hedging, he was able to get a bunch of cash over to Circa for us, and it was a lot of fun.
Wow. So I don't mean this, as a joke. I'm really serious about this. What ended up being more stressful, the game itself or that portion of it?
That portion of it. Because by that point, we, in all honesty, we had hedged off most, and we both ended up winning the last week. But at the end of the day, probably 85% of the money was already accounted for. We were playing for the remainder.
Right.
So that was a little stressful. And technically, I was watching those last games from the airport in Buenos Aires, and the very, very last play, I'm literally boarding an airplane, holding my iPad up in one hand with the passports in the other, like as I'm boarding and they're checking them, trying to see the last field goal in regulation, which we missed. Otherwise, we would have won the game. We went to overtime, and I literally thought we lost because there was a long completion downfield, and then suddenly my signal went out. Oh. And I'm on the plane trying to reload, because I had to be on a VPN coming from Buenos Aires.
Brutal.
I'm like, reload, and it won't reload the video. But suddenly all my text messages start exploding like, we did it, we won. And I'm like, oh my God, it was unbelievable.
If you had not gotten those text messages, that would have been the most miserable flight of your life. Oh,
absolutely brutal.
Yeah.
Absolutely brutal.
Russell, going into Thanksgiving.
Funny, on the way down there. Oh, yeah.
Going into Thanksgiving, how many entries did you have in Survivor?
2.
Can you tell us who those 2 were on?
We're talking about this year now.
This year.
Yep.
We're going back to last week.
Bill's getting me back. He's getting me back on track.
Yep.
And we had, I'm not going to say how many, it's embarrassing. We had a lot more than 2 to start the year. We had 2. We had 1 of the Chiefs, and that was decided the week before when we intentionally took Baltimore. because we didn't want to take Baltimore with everybody on Thanksgiving. So we took the Ravens the week before, planning to take the Chiefs on that ticket. Wouldn't have mattered. Both of them lost on Thanksgiving. And then the other one, we took the Bears. And we actually had the Eagles and the Bears available. We didn't have to take the Bears.
Wow. You had the Eagles and the Bears available. Tell the listeners and viewers why you chose the Bears instead of the Eagles that day.
Yeah, absolutely. And some people say, wow, you're a genius. You thought the Bears were going to win. We thought the Bears were going to win 25% of the time. We didn't think the Bears were going to win. We thought the Eagles would win. And that's what made this. We've never taken an underdog before in Survivor. And we played this just about every year. It's been at Circa. When you looked at the math of it, at the end of the day, the value of taking the Bears, it was worth roughly triple the value of taking the Eagles. Because if the Eagles won, your entry, and I don't have the math in front of me, but if the Eagles won, call it 75% of the time, when the Eagles won, your entry is worth like $36,000. And they're going to win 75% of the time. So your average is going to be, it's worth about $28,000, the 75% of that 36. When the Bears win, your entry is worth roughly $380,000. Now they're only going to win 25% of the time, but 25% of that 380 is like 90 and change. At the end of the day, right? You never want to bust from this thing. But as I've said to the people that play poker, right? If you know you're going to make a flush 1 in 3 times, but the pot's giving you 10-1, but when you don't hit that flush, you're busted from the main event of the World Series. If you want to have any chance to actually win the main event, you've got to be willing to take the 10-1 when you're a 3-1 dog.
That's right. And
you guys teach these things in different contexts. I mean, you like at horse racing. You don't always take the favorite. You take a 4-1 shot you think is going to win more often than that. But in horse racing, you can bet every race. Here, you're done if you lose. So it's not an easy button to push. But we thought we were going to be busted, and we had to explain to the other members of our group why we made this pick.
Would you care to share how much?
But they were shocked.
Would you care to share how much invested the group was this year?
Probably not.
Okay.
Like I said, it could be a little embarrassing, but we had some blended entries between this and some Grandissimos, which busted early. But I'll say this: it was, more than 30, less than 100.
More than 30, less than 100.
I thought it was more than 100. To be honest with you,
30, less than 100.
Nope, no.
And so you are
definitely less than 100.
You are a proponent. Then the more entries you start with, the better off you are. It's as simple as that.
Kind of. I don't think anybody has solved for this yet because you're dealing with a winner-take-all spot.
Yeah.
So if you have 2 at the end and you're the only 2 at the end, you had 1 wasted entry, right? But if you're 2 at the end and there's a third person and you get 2/3, then that wasn't a wasted entry. So I don't really know where that line is.
Yeah.
But when we're going to bring more people in, inevitably, after we won the first year, everybody's saying, why didn't you let me know? I would have done it. I would have done it. Like they never would have done it. It's impossible to win this thing. But then at that point, we're bringing in other friends and family. So we may as well, we want to make sure we win something when we win. So the way to do it is just take more entries.
Last question. You may not want to answer this for competitive purposes because there are people listening who are in this thing, I'm
Absolutely.
sure. But an idea of where you might be going this week?
Yeah, it's going to be Tampa Bay or not Tampa Bay.
Okay.
I mean, that's sort of like, it's Tampa Bay or it's Cleveland, basically. And I honestly don't know where we're going to land. We actually never really decide till Saturday morning because things can happen. Guys can get hurt, and you get an injury report, could change the dynamic. But really, you're going to get like 40% of the field on Tampa Bay. And so it's a spot where it's not a great spot to take Tampa. They have some other good spots. But given everybody got here with underdogs, everybody here understands how to play the game. So it's possible you don't end up with 40% on Tampa anymore. That'll be interesting to see.
Russell, good luck.
Thank you
so much for the time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.